In a world where everyone is oversharing, I've learned something important. Your privacy is your superpower. Not everyone deserves to know your dreams, your struggles, or your next move. The more silent you become about your life, the more control you gain over it, because when people don't know your plans, they can't interfere with them. And when you stop explaining yourself, you start rising. A little mystery doesn't make you weak. It makes you powerful. Privacy is not about hiding. It's about protecting the parts of you that deserve to grow without noise, judgment, or interruption. In my life, I've realized that when people know too much about you, they start forming expectations, assumptions, and opinions that you never asked for. And the truth is, the world will always try to put you in a box, limit you, define you, predict you. That's why keeping your life a little private becomes a kind of power. It becomes a shield that lets you evolve without pressure and lets you work without distraction. You don't owe the world a detailed report of your life. You don't owe anyone access to every corner of your heart, every step of your journey, or every dream you're chasing. The less people know, the more freedom you have to grow quietly, patiently, and fearlessly. There's something incredibly powerful about silence. Not the silence that comes from fear, but the silence that comes from confidence. When you don't feel the need to prove anything to anyone, you step into a different level of self-respect. You stop waiting for approval. You stop seeking applause. You stop giving people the power to influence your direction. You understand that your path is yours, your journey is yours, and your progress is nobody else's business. And that understanding gives you a kind of strength that is unshakable. You begin to realize that privacy isn't isolation, it's alignment. It's where your purpose meets your peace. People often think that being loud means being strong, but sometimes the quietest people are the ones building the biggest things. I've learned that when you move in silence, you move without resistance. You avoid unnecessary opinions. You protect your ideas before they are ready for the world. You protect your heart before it becomes vulnerable to criticism. You protect your dreams before they become targets. There's a reason why some of the most successful moments in your life come after long periods of quiet work. It's because growth happens internally before the world ever sees it externally. And that internal growth needs protection. Not everyone deserves access to your emotions, your plans, your vulnerabilities, or your progress. Some people only want information, not because they care, but because they want something to talk about. Some want insight, not to support you, but to measure you. And some simply want to know enough to doubt you. That's why privacy is crucial. When you choose what to share and what to protect, you gain control over your narrative. You decide what energy enters your life and what energy stays out. You choose peace over validation. You choose strength over noise. The truth is, mystery creates power. When people can't read your every move, they can't limit you. When they can't predict you, they can't stop you. When they can't understand you, they can't define you. You become a force they can see but cannot measure. And that is the power of privacy. It's not about hiding who you are. It's about becoming who you are without interference. It's about rising quietly, confidently, and unapologetically. When you start valuing privacy, you begin to understand that not every emotion needs an audience and not every phase of your life needs a spotlight. There's a certain peace that comes when you stop feeling the need to explain yourself to people who were never going to understand you anyway. You realize that some chapters are meant to be lived, not broadcasted. Some victories are meant to be celebrated, quietly. Some struggles are meant to be healed without the world watching. And the moment you accept that, you free yourself from the pressure of performing for others. You start living for yourself. And that is one of the most beautiful transformations you can experience. I've learned that people often misunderstand silence. They think if you're quiet, you're lost or uncertain. But silence can be a sign of deep focus. It can be a sign that you're building something big, something meaningful, something powerful. It's like the roots of a tree. Nobody sees them, but they're the reason the tree stands strong. Your silent phases are your rooting phases. They're the moments where you're strengthening your foundation, shaping your vision, and setting the stage for a version of yourself that the world hasn't even imagined yet. And that kind of growth doesn't need validation. It needs patience and protection. Privacy gives you emotional clarity. When you keep certain things to yourself, you learn to trust your own voice more. You stop outsourcing your decisions to others. You stop giving people the power to decide your worth. You start becoming more self-aware, more intentional, and more aligned with your purpose. You begin to understand that your journey doesn't need to be public for it to be meaningful. In fact, the most important work you'll ever do will happen privately. Inside your mind, inside your heart, inside your soul. And when that internal work is strong, the external results become effortless. There is also a beauty in not being easily accessible. It teaches people to value you, to respect your boundaries, to understand that your time and energy are precious. When you stop giving everyone instant access to your thoughts, your plans, and your life, you naturally elevate your presence. People become curious. They become aware that you are someone who moves with intention and not impulse, someone who chooses their circle carefully, someone who understands their worth. And that subtle yet powerful shift changes the way the world interacts with you. The truth is, a private life doesn't mean you're disconnected or cold. It simply means you are selective. You choose who gets to see your tears, who gets to celebrate your wins, who gets to hear your dreams, and who gets to know your weaknesses. That is not selfish, it's smart. Because when you protect your inner world, you protect your peace. And a peaceful mind is unstoppable. Privacy isn't about hiding, it's about healing, growing, strengthening, and becoming. It's about stepping into your power quietly so that when the world finally sees you, they see a person who is unshakable, intentional, and unstoppable. There comes a moment in life when you realize that not everyone around you is meant to be a witness to your transformation. Some people want to know your business only to judge it, compare it, or compete with it. And the more you reveal, the more they feel entitled to dissect your life as if it belongs to them. That's when privacy becomes not just a choice, but a necessity. When you start keeping certain things to yourself, your goals, your insecurities, your next steps, you begin to protect the purity of your intentions. You stop allowing other people's opinions to dilute your purpose. You stop giving anyone the power to influence your direction. You reclaim the steering wheel of your own life, and that feeling is both grounding and empowering. Privacy teaches you patience. It teaches you to sit with your dreams long enough to nurture them before exposing them to the world. It teaches you to value timing, because not everything is meant to be shared at the beginning. Some victories need silence to bloom. Some ideas need solitude to sharpen. Some ambitions need protection to grow without doubt. When you give your goals the space to evolve without external pressure, you allow yourself to move with clarity instead of confusion. You begin to differentiate between what is truly yours and what is shaped by the expectations of others. You gain a sense of ownership over your journey that public validation can never replace. Life becomes lighter when you stop announcing everything you're doing. You start discovering the freedom that comes with doing things quietly. There's no pressure to perform, no fear of judgment, no expectation to meet anyone's standard but your own. You learn to enjoy the process instead of rushing to reveal the outcome. And with every quiet step you take, you start building a deeper connection with yourself. You realize that your journey doesn't need applause to be meaningful. Even in silence, you are growing. Even without an audience, you are becoming. And in that quiet space, your confidence starts to expand. You also begin to notice who truly cares. The people who respect your privacy are the ones who respect your growth. They don't demand updates. They don't push for details. They understand that your boundaries are not walls. They are expressions of self-love. These people value your space, your time, and your energy. And that helps you create a circle built on trust, not curiosity. With privacy comes clarity about who belongs in your life and who only wants access without contribution. You start choosing quality over quantity, depth over noise, and loyalty over attention. Most importantly, protecting your privacy protects your peace. It gives you the room to breathe, to think, to align yourself with your true purpose. It removes distractions and amplifies your intuition. When you're not constantly explaining yourself, you begin to hear your own voice more clearly. You start trusting yourself again. And when you trust yourself, you become unstoppable. Privacy isn't about being secretive. It's about being wise. It's about honoring your journey by letting it unfold naturally without the interference of the world. In the quiet, you strengthen. In the quiet, you transform. And in the quiet, you prepare for the moment when your success speaks for itself, louder than anything you could have ever said. There is a point in life where you finally understand that peace is not found in being understood by everyone, but in not needing to be understood at all. When you keep your life private, you stop carrying the weight of people's opinions on your shoulders. You stop explaining your choices to those who were never walking your path. You stop defending your dreams to people who lack the courage to chase their own. Privacy allows you to breathe. It creates space between you and the noise of the world. And in that space, you find your strength. You begin to realize that the most powerful moves you will ever make are the ones you make quietly, without seeking approval, without inviting judgment, and without announcing your intentions. When you keep your circle small and your life private, you give yourself the freedom to grow without pressure. You allow yourself to make mistakes without an audience. You allow yourself to change direction without criticism. You allow yourself to evolve without the fear of someone saying, "I told you so." Growth is messy. Transformation is uncomfortable. Reinventing yourself takes courage. These stages of your life deserve privacy because they are sacred. They are the moments that shape who you are becoming, and the world does not need to watch you unfold step by step. Let them see the result, not the struggle. Let them see the transformation, not the process. Privacy also protects you from the energy of others, energy that can be jealous, competitive, or simply unsupportive. The more people know about your life, the more they feel entitled to comment on it. Some will doubt you, some will discourage you, some will mask their jealousy as advice, and some will simply want information because it entertains them. When you guard your personal life, you guard your emotional well-being. You choose who gets access to your heart, who gets access to your struggles, and who gets access to your journey. Not everyone deserves that privilege. Not everyone is equipped to handle your vulnerability with care. And here's the truth. When people don't know what you're doing, they can't interfere. They can't sabotage your plans. They can't influence your mindset. They can't slow you down with their doubts. Silence becomes your armor. Mystery becomes your advantage. People can only attack what they can see. When your life is private, your progress becomes unstoppable because it is protected. You become a storm that nobody sees coming, a force that builds quietly, a presence that grows without noise. The beautiful thing is that a private life doesn't make you lonely, it makes you selective. You start valuing authenticity over attention. You attract people who appreciate your depth, not your details. You form connections based on trust, not curiosity. And slowly your world becomes lighter, calmer, and more aligned with who you truly are. Privacy teaches you to live deeply instead of loudly. It teaches you that the most meaningful parts of your life don't need to be displayed. They need to be treasured. And when you master the art of keeping certain things to yourself, you step into a level of power, peace, and purpose that the world cannot shake. There will always be people who want to know everything about you, not because they care, but because curiosity gives them a sense of control. The moment you start sharing less, you take that control back. You begin to understand that your life is not a public stage where every moment must be performed. It is your private journey, meant to be lived, felt, understood, and cherished by you first. When you stop oversharing, you give yourself the gift of emotional freedom. You no longer shape your decisions based on how others might react. You no longer shrink your dreams because someone might not believe in them. You no longer allow fear of judgment to dictate your direction. Privacy becomes a filter that keeps negativity out and clarity in. Your silence becomes powerful when you learn how to use it. Some people think silence is emptiness, but silence is actually full of intention, full of focus, full of growth. When you protect your inner world, you start hearing your own voice again. You hear your intuition telling you which path to take, which people to trust, which opportunities align with your purpose. You hear the truth beneath the noise. That is something you cannot hear when your life is exposed to everyone. Silence sharpens your instincts. It helps you recognize people's real intentions. It allows you to see who checks on you without needing updates, who supports you without needing details, and who loves you without needing access to every part of you. Privacy reveals real connections. There is also something incredibly empowering about becoming unpredictable. When people think they know everything about you, they start assuming the limits of your potential. They place you inside the boundaries of what they understand. But when you hold back, when you move quietly, when you keep your plans close to your chest, you break free from those boundaries. You become someone they can't define, someone they can't predict, someone they can't underestimate. Your silence becomes a form of strength that speaks louder than explanations. People start seeing your results instead of your rehearsals. They start seeing your breakthroughs instead of your battles. And those results speak a language far more powerful than your words ever could. A private life also strengthens your emotional resilience. Not everything you feel needs a witness. Not every wound needs an audience. There is healing that happens only in solitude. When you keep your struggles private, you give yourself the space to process them honestly, without pressure, without judgment, without performance. You learn that your emotions don't need validation to be real. You learn to comfort yourself, to motivate yourself, to rebuild yourself. And when you emerge from those private battles stronger, wiser, and more grounded, you carry a strength that is unshakable. Eventually, you realize that the world doesn't need to know your every move to respect you. It doesn't need to know your plans to see your success. It doesn't need to witness your journey to understand your growth. Privacy teaches you that your life becomes richer when you protect it, more meaningful when you nurture it, and more powerful when you live it on your terms. And the moment you learn to embrace that, you step into a version of yourself that no one can touch, confident, intentional, free, and unstoppable.